We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. Jones and Adam here with you. Time to recap the Tar Heels presented by Wells Fargo. And Adam, we have one simple rule here on the Wells Fargo Weekend Recap. You win a national title, that is where we begin. And for the fourth consecutive year, Carolina women's tennis has brought home the indoor national championship. Adam, this is a dominant run. It is now the last 10 years the Tar Heels have appeared in the finals every single year. They've won it 7 times, including, as I mentioned, 4 in a row. What an accomplishment for Brian Calbas and his team.
And just a dominant performance in the latest version this weekend as the Tar Heels go out to Seattle. They beat number 8 Pepperdine. They beat number 12 Michigan. They beat number 3 Texas A&M. And then in the championship match against number 5 Georgia, Tar Heels win a tight doubles point and just obliterate the Bulldogs in singles to win the title 4-0 over Georgia. Carolina showing off some great depth in singles, rotating a series of players in, played 7 different players in singles, and just got a great effort up and down the roster. I mean, Jones, they're wagon.
Absolute wagon status for Carolina women's tennis. Congratulations to them, and we do hope either on the video pod or on the audio pod, we're going to talk to one of the student athletes from women's tennis here in the very near future. Looking forward to that and talk a little bit about this most recent national championship for the ladies. So congratulations again to Brian Calbas and his team. Coach Calbas, let's talk about men's basketball. No, let's talk about that with Adam. And unfortunately, Adam, this last stretch for Carolina, 3 days, they played twice, and they kind of showed what we have known about the Tar Heels all season long, and that is they are inconsistent. They looked terrific against Clemson on Saturday, looked equally as not as terrific on Monday against Miami, and beat the Tigers handily. Close game for the most part with Miami, but fell by 8 and continue to search for some consistent play.
Yeah, Miami's a really good team, and you can't shoot 5 for 31 from 3 against a really good team. And Armando Bacot, probably your best player, gets only 6 field goal attempts, partially because of those outside shooting struggles. Honestly, it was a little surprising it was as close as it was given those numbers. The Tar Heels have really had some trouble getting any kind of transition offense going, and as Jones said, the main theme has been how consistently inconsistent this year's team has been. Great showing against Clemson. If we had just recorded this on Monday morning, very different tone.
Yeah.
Instead, here we are, including the Monday night game, and now the Tar Heels are in this position where the rest of the season feels very important to win basically every single game to give yourself a chance to do what you want to do in the postseason.
It is not as simple as simply saying Carolina needs to make more three-pointers, but the numbers are pretty stark. In wins, Carolina's shooting 35% as a team from three-point range. In losses, they're shooting 24%. When Carolina shoots 35% or better from 3, the Tar Heels are undefeated this season. When they shoot below that number, they're hovering right around 500. So it has been a challenging season in that regard for the Tar Heels. That season continues coming up on Sunday at 1 o'clock on the road. Next 2 games are on the road. This one's in Raleigh against NC State. State's had a good year. They'll be excited to see the Tar Heels. That'll be a difficult environment for sure. We're on the radio at noon for that one. Women's basketball, their next matchup is against NC State as well, but let's look back first. They're coming off a home victory against BC on Sunday, and Adam, they're doing this with some pretty legitimate injury issues right now. They were without 3 starters in that game against Boston College.
Tar Heels beat the Eagles only dressing 8 players.
Wow.
They were missing Alyssa Usby. They were missing Anya Poole. They were missing Eva Hodgson. But who they did have was Kayla McPherson, who is making her first career start in just her 5th career game. All Kayla does is go out and score 22 points. She's averaging almost a dozen points a game in her limited exposure this year with the Tar Heels. Destiny Adams had a great game. She had 6 steals. So the Tar Heels got contributions from who was on hand, but really tough part of the schedule coming up. And in order to be successful, they're going to need some of those injured Tar Heels to come back.
4 games left in the regular season for the women. At NC State Thursday at 8 p.m. That is available both on the Tar Heel Sports Network radio-wise, but TV-wise on the ACC Network. Then they're back at home Sunday at 4 p.m. also on the ACC Network TV-wise. That game is against Wake Forest. So at State Thursday, 8 o'clock. home against Wake Forest Sunday, 4 o'clock. Every one of these games is big. Tar Heels are currently 6th in the ACC, but just 1 game back of 3rd place. So tightly bunched on the women's side, just like it is on the men's side. All these games will be impactful. All right, we talked women's tennis at the beginning of the show. Let's talk a little men's tennis. The guys 6-2. They've had a good start to the season. They begin that ITA indoor tournament that the women just won. The men start their version of it coming up this weekend in Chicago. They did have one match here recently. They beat Elon 6-1. That was on Sunday. So, Adam, the tennises are getting going. The lacrosses have started as well and started with some big wins.
Started with a pair of wins. Men's lacrosse crushes Mercer 25-3 in their season opener. Logan McGovern with 4 goals and 2 assists. They've already got a big non-conference match, Jones. You know, Johns Hopkins has had a really formidable schedule
That's
to
what
start
I've heard.
the season. Tar Heels are going to travel to Johns Hopkins this afternoon. That's a big one. And then the Tar Heels will go to Ohio State on Sunday. Over on the women's side, Carolina's #1 in the country, and they started out with a win over a good James Madison squad, 14-9. Got some contributions from some newcomers, which we know they need because Jenny Levy replacing a lot with that squad. Marissa White, a freshman, had 5 goals in her debut. And then in the cage, Alicia Nichols, 14 saves in her first start, for which she collected the first ACC Hardware of the Year for the women's lacrosse Tar Heels. She's the co-defensive player of the week in the league.
41 consecutive regular season wins for women's lacrosse. Incredible number. That is the 3rd longest streak in NCAA history. They'll look to continue that. It won't be easy, though. They have a couple of tough games coming up. They're hosting Liberty on Wednesday and then Florida, who's ranked in the top 10 on Saturday. So great start to the season for both of those programs. All right, let's rapid fire our way through a few more. Gymnastics had a quad meet in New Hampshire this past weekend. They won that quad meet, including the best scores of the year on a couple of events, beam and vault. They have another quad meet in the D.C. area hosted by George Washington coming up this weekend. Track, congratulations to Brianna White and Jack Aho. They won individual events in the competition this past weekend. Fencing hosted its first home meet in 10 years, and they performed well, went 3-1 in that home meet. And swimming and diving, ACC championships getting started in Greensboro. That starts today. It runs through Sunday. Tar Heels have been solid this year, particularly on the women's side, where they are ranked number 17 in the country. And former podcast guest Aranza Vasquez has the highest score in the country in the 3-meter dive this year. So we'll keep an eye on her and the others to see how they do in that event. Adam, that's not all, though. We're going to head to the circle and to the diamond because softball and baseball are getting going too.
Can you tell that it's the time when winter and spring sports start to cross over? Softball opened their season at the Puerto Vallarta tournament, had close losses to 2 really good teams, number 25 Ole Miss and number 3 Oklahoma State, but also picked up 2 wins. They'll open their home schedule on Wednesday against Elon and then host the ACC Big Ten event this weekend. Also hosting this weekend, the Diamond Heels. You'll hear from Scott Forbes with us later this week. His Tar Heels will open the season against Seton Hall, traditional opener for the Diamond Heels, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Boshamer Stadium. Diamond Heels expected to be among the best teams in the ACC, which means you're among the best teams in the country.
4 p.m. on Friday, 2 p.m. Saturday, 1 p.m. Sunday, the scheduled times for that baseball series to start off the year. And as Adam mentioned, we'll have Coach Forbes joining us tomorrow right here. We'll see you then on the next edition of the Carolina Insider.